I started a foundation called the Stay Gold Foundation, which gives us the opportunity to supply scholastic material and books. We gave 100 books to the school today, outsiders books. The Stay Gold Foundation is a platform for me to come and share with the younger people the importance of literacy. So these kids that are 13 and 14 years old are just a year or two away from how old Susie was when she wrote this book. And it's so important for me to be able to come out and share my experience filming The Outsiders, share my experience of what it meant for me when I read the book for the very first time. I want to remind these kids that they can create, communicate, and that their hearts and their minds and their voices matter. Well, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter if you're from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or if you're from Los Angeles, California. If you put your mind, you put your heart and soul into it, you can achieve your goals.
See Thomas Howell. Without further ado, here he is, you guys.
What a pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you all so much for that welcome. Golly. Outsiders fans, anybody? Couple of you. Yeah. So I'm hoping y'all read the book, right? If you read the book, have you seen the movie? 42 years ago yesterday, that movie came out. Can you believe it? Yes. Yes, believe it or not, I was Pony Boy. I'm old and gray now, but you know it's going to happen to y'all as well, I promise. Beats the alternative. So, why am I here? First of all, my wife and I started a foundation called the Stay Gold Foundation. This gives me an opportunity to come and speak to young people like you all and express the importance of literacy, reading and writing, and applying that to yourselves and the arts. I'm a storyteller. I grew up an actor, I'm a songwriter, I write screenplays, and I couldn't do this if I didn't commit completely to reading and writing. Statistics will tell you that our young people, you all, spend about 80% of your free time on your devices, right? Whether it's video games, social media, computers, music, what have you. And that's the world we're living in. So I understand that. I'm on there all the time as well. But communication is everything. And we don't do that anymore. I go out to dinner, I'll see a family of 4. 2 kids are on their phone, or the baby's on the iPad, the parents are on their phone, and we're not even spending 30 minutes during dinner communicating and connecting. And connection is what it's all about. I come here, right? Maybe you show up to come see me this morning, but I come here to see you all, right? And we have this exchange. Hopefully you leave today in a few minutes and you'll feel a little bit better about what I've shared with you. And you all already made me feel better, so thank you for that big welcome. A lot of people ask me, they say, so, you know, what was your favorite thing about making The Outsiders? Well, I was 14. How old are y'all? 13? Just go off. Okay. So I was your age. Can you believe Hinton was 15 when she wrote this book? 15, 16 years old when she wrote this book. That's your age, right? I can remember when I was 14. I struggled a little bit trying to figure out who I was, wanting to be accepted, hang out with the cool kids. It's important to understand your self-value, your self-worth. If S.E. Hinton didn't think she had something to say, if she let the people around her influence her, the people that said, what are you doing writing a book about a gang of hoods from the wrong side of the tracks? You don't know anything about that. We wouldn't have had The Outsiders. So your voice matters. It does. And I was just like you. I grew up on a ranch. My father was a cowboy, a professional bull rider, my father. I didn't know anything about acting. I didn't know anything. When I got the opportunity to go into a room and meet Steven Spielberg for a little movie called E.T., I never thought I would get the part. And I said to my dad, I said, Daddy, there was 5 other boys waiting to go into that room to meet Steven Spielberg when I got there. They all had beautiful black feathered hair and blue eyes that looked like John Stamos, Uncle Jesse. I said, Daddy, there's no chance that I'm going to get this part. My father said, just wait your turn, son. One by one, they went in and they came out, and I had my shot. And I got to go in, and I sat down on a chair, plucked right off the ranch. I was clean as stalls. Went down to Hollywood, went into a room, met the producers of the Raiders of the Lost Ark, Kathleen Kennedy, Frank Marshall, met Steven Spielberg. I sat down in a chair, and we started talking. And he asked me some questions if I could ride the bike. I said, yes, sir, I can ride that bike. He handed me a page of dialogue from me so I could start to read something with him. And he looked at me and he said, son, I think you're going to be perfect for this. You got the part. And I walked out bewildered. But if I would have allowed my imagination, if I would have allowed my mind and my heart and my soul to talk me out of that moment, I would have had the experience that I was able to co-create because I showed up, I committed, I went in, and I communicated. And then I got my chance to meet Francis Ford Coppola for The Outsiders. And once again, went into a big room much like this. There must have been 40 other actors in there. Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe, Robert Downey Jr., Dennis Quaid, many young actors were reading for these parts. And I just believed in myself in that moment. And I didn't allow my imagination to tell me that I wasn't good enough, or that I didn't matter, or that I couldn't do it. And I was raised by somebody that taught me to believe in myself. So that's why I'm here, just to share that message with you all, to let you know that you do matter. It doesn't matter where you're from. You could be from Sioux Falls and still make a difference. And I just want to let you know that somebody like myself, who spent a lifetime in Hollywood, 250 movies in my day. I'm almost 60 now. And I care about you. I care about this staff. And I wanted to take my time today to come and let you know that somebody does care about you. And y'all can make a difference. You gotta take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. So, before we go any further, I'd like to ask a few questions. And I received a few questions. Did any of you supply some questions when we asked to do so? Right? A lot of times, we like to get those questions in advance because it gets real quiet out there when I say, okay, who wants to ask a question? Nobody will really raise their hand. And sometimes we get crazy questions. One of my favorite questions I got from somebody was, how much money do you make? Right? Well, enough to be able to come here and talk to you, I'll say that. Enough to be able to help fund our foundation, which gives us an opportunity to supply books to schools. We sent 100 books, outsiders books, here for y'all and for future students to read and hopefully relate to and communicate to. One of the things I think everybody connects with this book is the characters. Doesn't matter what side of the tracks you're from, whether you're a Dallas fan, a Ponyboy fan, a Johnny Cage fan. We all love Ralph Macchio. What an amazing person. One of my closest friends, a sweet guy. And I remember Ralph was about 7 years older than I was. I was 14, 15 years old when we did this, and he was 21. That's a pretty big difference. And Ralph took me under his wing and really helped me understand what it meant to create character, show up on time, be prepared, rehearse. And I couldn't have done it without him. So he's one of my closest friends. Patrick Swayze, rest your soul, brother. I did 3 pictures with Patrick. And he really was one of my dearest friends. Anybody here ever hear of a movie called Red Dawn?
Yeah.
He played Jed in Red Dawn. He played my brother in The Outsiders. We did a movie that I'm sure nobody here has ever heard of called Grandview, USA. And He was an amazing guy. Also a rancher, a cowboy, loved outdoors, and was a little bit of a pain in the butt. He was an overachiever. Anything that you did, you could show up with your butterfly catching net and say, hey Patrick, I'm going to start catching butterflies. And he'd look at you and say, oh, I went to the Olympics in 1968 butterfly catching. The guy was amazing. He wrote a song, went #1. Did a dance movie, Dirty Dancing. It became iconic. Truly, truly a gentleman. And whatever he put his mind to, he accomplished. And that's the whole point of this. The people that I worked with. Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Matt Dillon. They were all hard workers that were committed to their dreams, their aspirations. And it starts now. Nobody's going to walk in and hand you a perfect life on a silver platter. You all have to be responsible for that. So, know that you can achieve your dreams if you want to. And it starts now. Okay, let's get to the outsiders for a second. I'd like it to be interactive. Would anybody here like to ask me a question about the outsiders? Yeah, come on. You started to raise your hand and you put it down. You change your mind? No? How about you? No? That's how we go. Yes and a what? Say that one more time.
The other actors.
The other actors? Well, a lot of them went on to have very big careers. Matt works quite a bit. Matt Dillon played Dallas. He works quite a bit. I know you've seen Cobra Kai. You've seen Ralph. I know you've seen all the Mission Impossibles with Tom Cruise. Rob Lowe has a TV series or 2 on television right now. Diane Lane, who played Sherry Valance, she's been nominated for a few Oscars. And Emilio Estevez is getting ready to direct Young Guns 3 right now. So everybody works. A lot of them went behind the scenes, becoming directors and writers. And that tends to happen as we grow a little bit older. Right? How does it feel to be a part of the outsiders? I couldn't be prouder, to be honest with you. I love this book. It's a book that I reread occasionally because I get questions from youngsters like you. And I'm amazed that S.E. Hinton had the ability and self-discipline at that age, 15, 16 years old, to write. Can you believe that she was 15 or 16 years old when she wrote this story? And here's another fun fact. S.E. Hinton got a D in English the year that she wrote The Outsiders. Okay, come on. Was Cherry pretty cute? Cherry's still beautiful. Yes. Diane Lane is a beautiful lady inside and out. This young lady in the leather coat with her Johnny Cake jacket. Yes, sir. I still communicate with the actors from The Outsiders. I haven't communicated with Tom Cruise, but I spoke with Rob Lowe not that long ago. I see Ralph all the time. And whenever we see each other, we wrap our arms around each other and we hug it out.
How did it feel like working with Matt Dillon?
Oh my God. Matt Dillon, I'll tell you this. When I was younger, hanging out with the cast of The Outsiders, these guys all looked pretty dang okay, if you know what I mean. But when Matt Dillon walked in the room, woo, silence. The ladies started rubbernecking, and that guy was the most handsome guy I'd ever met. I gotta tell you, I wanted to be Matt Dillon back then. And a great guy. A great guy. Come on over here. Yes, sir. Yeah. My favorite person to act with, that's a tough one when we start picking favorites. But I will say this, I spent most of my time with Ralph and Matt. And the three of us were like the three amigos together. And boy, I tell you what, I really look back on those days with fond memories. Just great guys and a lot of fun. It was a simpler time back then. We're talking 1982. We didn't have the distractions that y'all have today. We didn't have phones, we didn't have computers, and we actually went outside and got dirty. I bet y'all can't remember the last time you got dirty.
I get it.
Right? Right here in front. The hardest part about filming The Outsiders, the long hours. It was a lot of hard work. You know, there were moments that were tougher than others. For example, I showed up for the Rumble scene. Y'all remember the Rumble?
Yeah.
Well, we shot that scene over 3 nights. The first night we got there, it was raining. So it was the introduction. It was when the socials were coming up and they were sizing each other up. And I think one guy said, "Hey, you know, Derry, I'll take you." And I had spent about 3 weeks working on the choreography of this fight. My father was a stuntman for years. Ponyboy had punches and kicks, and it was a big part of this Rumble. And the second day, they had a fire truck with firemen and a fire hose squirting water in the air to recreate the rain from the night before. So it was getting pretty muddy out there. And the very first punch of that Rumble comes from a young man named Reed Rondell, all in white, and he throws a punch at Ponyboy. Well, they say action, and Reed steps back to throw that punch and slips in the mud and accidentally hit me in the chin. For real. And down I went. And I'm looking up, and everybody's doing their karate kicks and their punches and throwing each other down. And I'm just laying there in the mud. The director says, "Cut." And I said, "Mr. Coppola, we got to go again, sir." He says, "Why?" I said, "Well, I got hit in the chin and fell down in the mud. I didn't get to throw my punches or my kicks or anything." He scratches his chin for a second. He looks at me and says, "Well, that's what happens to Ponyboy in this Rumble." Next thing I know, I'm being drug out of the mud by Matt Dillon. I didn't get to throw one punch or one kick. That was it. So you never know what's going to happen. You can prep, you can rehearse, you can plan. But on the set, things can turn left, things can turn right, and you got to make the best of it. Yeah, in the red sweater right there. Yep. That's my favorite question right there. How much money did you get? I'm not going to answer that. That would be silly. But I will say I made a pretty dang good living in my day. I've been very blessed. And, you know, I will say this. Certain movies, certain projects, you make a lot more money than others. And it's usually the ones that you make less money on that come from your heart. You want to do it out of love. And those are my favorite. And sometimes you just got to take a little more money to pay the bills. It's just like that in life, whatever you end up doing. Yes, sir.
When you were born, which of your brothers were your favorite?
You know, I'll say this. A movie that none of you will probably know, but the teachers will know. Y'all remember Urban Cowboy?
Yeah.
Back in 1978, 1979, right?
Yep.
My father was a stunt coordinator of Urban Cowboy. And I went to Houston when I was 11 years old and spent the summer on the set of Urban Cowboy with a woman who was the dance choreographer of that film named Patsy Swayze. Patrick was on that set with me every day when I was 11 years old. 3 years before we ever knew we were going to do a movie together. We were going to do 3 movies. So he was like a brother to me. Patrick really was like a brother to me. So when we both showed up on set of The Outsiders, we hugged it out. And I had so much trust in him, and he really took care of me like a real family member. Yeah. See how we doing on time? We got a little bit more. Come over here in the back. Yeah, in the black sweater. Yeah. Yeah.
How was it like to work with the other actors?
Well, I'll tell you a couple things. There were a lot of jokes and a lot of pranks on that set. And some of the actors, like the Socias, Randy and Bob, they didn't work as much as myself. So I would come home after a long day's work sometimes, and lo and behold, somebody got a key to my room, and they would have turned everything in my room upside down, from a penny to the bed. I thought I walked into a room, and I was like, what the heck has happened here? One time, somebody unscrewed the eye hole to Rob Lowe's room, and they squirted a fire extinguisher in there, and they got on the phone. They said, Rob, the hotel's on fire. You gotta get out. He came running out into the lobby with his camera in his underwear, screaming. This type of stuff happened all the time. So we had a lot of fun. About a month before we started filming, we showed up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's where we shot it. And we started rehearsing, spent time together, getting to know each other. And the weekends, the production had organized barbecues, football games, basketball games, bowling nights between the greasers and the socias. So by the time we actually started filming, we had a real healthy animosity, a dislike for each other that was palpable. So the director was part director, part father, and part psychologist, and he really set us up to, and it was in the healthiest of ways. I don't want to make people think that we didn't really like each other. But when we played against them, whether it was football or bowling, we definitely wanted to win. They all would show up in matching tracksuits with names on their backs, and we didn't have any of that. They had their leather-bound books with their scripts in it, with their names on it. We didn't have any of that. So we really looked at them like they were being treated a little bit better, and they were to some degree. But it really helped us when we finally went to work and felt that animosity between us. And we didn't have to fake it. A couple more questions, and then we'll get into the end of our meeting here. Yeah?
How long did it take to make the movie?
So the movie took about 3 months to shoot, and we had probably about 4 weeks of rehearsal. But before that, boy, the process that we went through to audition to get these parts took months and months and months. I read scenes with actors for months before I was ever really officially given the job as Pony Boy. How about you?
What made you make you start the acting?
Well, like how did I get the role maybe?
Why did you want to become the outsider?
Okay, why did I want to be in The Outsiders? Well, I read the book. And when I read the book, I fell in love with it. And I had a real connection to Pony Boy. And I thought, you know what? This is an opportunity for me that I do not want to pass up. So I wanted to keep going in and keep taking those meetings and keep trying. And then one day they said, you're going to be our Pony Boy. And that just filled my heart. I have to tell you. You know, one of my favorite parts of the book, and one of my favorite parts of the movie, is the poem by Robert Frost. Right? Nothing gold can stay. Anybody here know that poem? I'm going to recite it for you right now. Okay? Nature's first green as gold. Her heart is hewn and whole. Her early leaves a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf. So Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down today. Nothing gold can stay. A lot of people ask me all the time, what did that poem mean to Pony Boy? What does it mean to me? Well, there's no right or wrong answer to that because it's subjective. It means it's such a beautiful, concise little piece of literature that has so much depth, and it has many meanings for a lot of people. But to me, it represents new beginnings, right? It represents a circle of life. But there's a metaphor in that poem that I actually think about quite a bit, and I want to share that with you. And that's the fact that everything changes. Nothing stays the same in life. So when I'm going through a good time, I like to stop and smell the roses and recognize that positive space so I can co-create that and stay in that positive space because that's my preference, right? We want to have a happy time. But here's the thing. The same thing can be applied when we're going through a tough time, right? When we're going through a tough time, I like to stop and recognize that as well. Because tough times are good times in disguise. Tough times present life lessons that help us grow and stretch. They're character-defining, character-developing moments that we actually need. So instead of finger-pointing and blaming and denying, wrap your arms around that moment. Try to see that lesson for what it really is. Be grateful for it and move on. Yeah, that's what that poem represents to me. I'm going to take a couple more questions and we'll say goodbye and let y'all get on with your day. Two-parter. Okay, so the question is, what was my favorite part about playing Pony Boy? And if I could change something, what would that be? Well, I'd say my favorite part was the friendships that I made. We all became like brothers. And even behind the scenes, the people behind the scenes, the director, the writer, S.E. Hinton is one of my dearest, sweetest friends, and I love that man. I have so much respect for the director, Francis Ford Coppola. And what would I change? Well, I've never been asked that question before, and I can honestly say I don't know if I would change anything. I think about those times so much, and it fills my heart. And I love the book, I love the movie, I love to be able to come and speak to people like you about my experience. And I can honestly say I don't think I would change anything. Yeah, a couple more questions. My favorite memory? Well, had a lot of laughs, spilt a few tears too. But I will say this, and I've already mentioned it once or twice. The relationships developed on the set of The Outsiders would be my absolute favorite. Yeah, it's not always that way. I hope the lights are going out, or that's just me up here. I'm not sure. That's awesome. I don't always experience that. When you finish a project, you don't have the closeness that we had on that set. But I would say that was my favorite thing. Yeah. I'm going to take one more question. We'll let y'all go back. On the end. What would I have done differently? And are you asking what would I have done differently on The Outsiders? Well, I will say this. I was 14, 15 years old. Your all's age. I was pretty bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when I was a part of that thing. And I was just excited to be there. And I don't know if I had the insight to be able to say or understand the changes that needed to be made there. I'm pretty proud of all of the cast members, including myself, for portraying the roles that we all were assigned. I think the book and the film represent each other pretty fairly. You know, it doesn't always happen that way. Movies don't always really, a lot of times they change the movies a lot from the books, but I think The Outsiders tried to stay true to, the film tried to stay true to the book as much as possible, so I'm pretty proud about that. But I just want to thank everybody for letting me come to your school today. Brandy?
You have a gift, front left.
I have a gift. Where at? You giving your friend away? What's going on? Oh, my favorite thing. You gotta put that on for me. Look at that. Stay golden bracelet. God bless. Thank you so much. We collect these and we keep them all too, by the way. What's your name? Julia, thank you so much. I want to thank the staff, the teachers, for continuing to support the outsiders and passing that torch on. Thank you all for letting me come here and share my time with you. We hope you enjoy these books that we've given you and you pass it on to your friends and tell them to read it down the road, right? Just remember, your voice matters. Y'all can make a difference. So from me to you, God bless and stay golden. Thank you, guys.